Welcome to Edged Mindset. I am your gracious and appreciative host, Carter. Glad you could join me today. We're going to be taking a look at this Strider AR .75. This is going to be a full review, I think, more or less. This is my review of the Strider AR .75. So sit back, relax. I hope you enjoy the presentation and give me any feedback, any comments down below. Much appreciative. So before we begin, what are we looking at? We're looking at a Strider designed knife. I covered this in the unboxing. In case you missed that unboxing, this is a 100% Strider designed knife. It has nothing to do with Medford. Medford had nothing at all to say about how this thing looks or the materials or how it's made. The Strider AR is a classic Strider design, starting with the original liner lock, and then they did a full-size frame lock version of this. So this knife is just a production knife of the AR that's 0.75 the normal size. So it's been scaled down a little bit, in my opinion, perfectly. To me, this is such a great little tank of a knife. I think the size is spot on. It's really cool, and it reminds me of years and years ago when these sort of things were more common. So what do you get when you buy one of these brand new? Well, you get a bubble wrap baggie with a label and a barcode. See, this is new. This is advanced. It never even used to come with this. It used to just come in a plastic baggie. Now you at least get a label saying what it is: Tumbled, Tonto blade, blue tie. So that's an upgrade. No box, anything like that. Striders are known for not coming in any sort of boxes or stickers or anything like that. They're very bare bones. Pull them off the assembly line, throw them in a bag, and send them to you. This knife features full tie, both sides, lock side, presentation side, nice thick slabs of tie. This one is kind of a blue. It's called blue stonewash, but really it's more of a blurple. Like it's almost violet, almost purple. The blade is S45vn, and it has what they considered a tumbled finish. Don't really like it, I'll be honest. I don't really care for the finish. I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute, but it's kind of an awkward finish. It's kind of a satin, like a ultra machined satin. So you can barely see kind of the grind lines on the primary bevel there, not super pronounced. And you can see the finishing on the flats, and then it looks like they throw it into a stone washer for a couple of minutes to kind of scuff up the outer finish. So to me, we're going to talk about it right now since I've already started. To me, it looks like they didn't commit either way. They didn't want to do kind of a raw grind line finish like they did in the past runs. So the past runs had a much more pronounced primary bevel grinds, almost like the customs, almost like a mixed Strider custom. Looked really good. But this time they went kind of more refined machined, and I guess they just thought it looked too finished or too pristine and thought they'd throw it in the tumbler, but they didn't want to do a complete finish on the blade like you would normally do before you stone wash. So I don't know. It's kind of in between, mixed in between. You may like it. It definitely serves its purpose. This is not going to really show scratches because it's pretty much already scuffed up. So it's kind of up to you if you think you like it or not. It also comes in a PVD, black PVD coating, which is what I kind of wish I would have went with. Let's take a look at some specs here. So overall length, you're looking at about 8 inches, maybe just a little bit bigger than 8 inches. The blade length is about 3 1/4, give or take, depending on where you measure it from, about 4 inches to the center of the pivot there. So not a small knife, but not a massive knife either. The original AR was considerably large. Let's get some weight. Definitely not light. 7.2 ounces. It's a pretty hefty boy. Pretty thick, hefty boy. You can see how thick that stock is. Kind of standard Strider stock. Nice thick liners. This is a frame lock. There is no lockbar insert on this knife. There are no bearings on this knife. They are slotted washers inside here. If I remember right, it's 2 sets on each side. So, well, a set on each side. So 4 total washers, 2 on each side. And they have the, kind of like Chris Reeves, how they have the holes in there to hold the oil and the lubricant and whatnot. Lockbar stabilizer here, classic Strider pocket clip. Like I said, this is straight up a Strider AR in terms of design. Now, it is manufactured by Medford, in Medford's facility. They do a great job. This thing is put together really, really well. Some people consider this a collaboration. It is not a collaboration. It's just like the Steelcraft line from Todd Begg. Todd Begg does not say, you know, my Field Marshal is a collaboration with Riot. He just says, this is my Field Marshal production knife manufactured by Riot, or OEM partner is Riot. So all this is a Strider knife. The OEM partner is Medford. And some people don't like that. It doesn't really bother me. Would I prefer this knife be made in a Strider facility? Absolutely. Yes, 100%. Is that feasible? No, there is no Strider facility, right? It's not a matter of Strider was too cheap or lazy to do it themselves. They have no facility anymore. They shut down, they closed down shop. So the 2 options are not get this knife or get this knife made by Medford. Those are the 2 options. And so I'm happy with the get this knife made by Medford. Other people, not so much. I know some people would rather, you know, ask them take it or leave it. They'd say leave it. I don't care to have this knife produced. That is why it is only branded with Strider. You can see the S45 or S45vn. There's the Strider Flying Penis logo right there. And then we have Strider right here. No Medford anywhere on this knife. So let's get into it. So who is this knife for other than Strider fanboys and Thick Boy Knife fanboys? Well, anybody that likes a solid, heavy-duty, full-tie knife that's impressive, big, but not comically so. I think they really did a good job with the .75 concept. The original Strider AR is just a little too much for 99.9% of the people out there. Scaling it down to this degree still gets the point across. It still makes for a beefy knife. It is, you know, the width on this is pretty substantial. If you compare it to like a Spyderco Paramilitary 2, you can see the size is very, very similar in overall length. But the Strider AR is considerably wider. And the colors even actually match. Look at that. How cute is that? These 2 things are 2 peas in a pod. Both have the blurple. One is tie and one is G10. I would take the CPM 110V though over the S45 if I could choose. They've done a run with these in S90. I wish I could have gotten one of those. I almost bought one on the secondary market and I passed it up. I'm kind of kicking myself because I would prefer the S90V over the S45vn, even though the S45 seems great. You know, it seems like a really good all-around steel, and it's more or less just better than S35 based on what I've read. I know there's a few differing opinions on that, but based on what I've read, that's the case. Got a beautiful Tonto blade. Now, I'm not the biggest Tonto fan in the world, but something about that blade shape on this handle just works for me. I like how the angles kind of jive and match up. Just looks really cool. I like their kind of American style Tonto. It's got almost like a drop point up at the top here. Wicked, wicked point. Nice and thick and robust. Clearly defined angles here. So both of these are flat ground. However, this one is more obtuse of an angle than this one. So we are going to get a little bit better cutting down here than up here. It's way thick behind this edge. This is not where you want to be doing any slicing. This is a super robust, heavy duty edge up here. Down here, you're going to get a little bit better cutting. However, it is still really thick behind the edge. This is not a slicer, right? It'll cut, but it's not a slicer. This is meant for heavy duty, hardcore tasks. Now, whether or not you have heavy duty, hardcore tasks that you need a knife for, that's up to you to decide. I can't decide that for you. Pivot is your usual spanner pivot here. You can buy a couple different tools. You can buy a bike spanner tool that'll work off Amazon. You can also buy official Strider tools. You've got Torx bits going through collars here, standoffs. Then you've got a larger standoff. So the two thumb studs or pins up here, this acts as the blade stop, so it interacts with the top of the scales here. That's what stops the blade from moving rearward. And then what prevents the blade from going through the handles in the other direction is actually this large standoff right here that fits against this choil. So this choil comes around and it hits this, and that's what stops it in the stop position. And of course you have the standard detent ball right here, ceramic ball bearing, that then interacts with the little hole right there that keeps it in the closed position. This thing does have a very stout detent. It is perfect in my opinion. I wouldn't want it any lighter or any stronger. It holds the blade securely in place. No wibble wobble, nothing. The manufacturing on this is excellent. Perfectly dead centered, as Medford would say, collector centering right here. Collector centering. Lanyard hole back here. You can run through both scales or just one, your preference if you want to run a lanyard. Titanium pocket clip with a single screw and the little bent tab that goes into the hole right there. One thing, let's take a look at lockup here. Perfect lockup in my opinion. It's what, 20% or so right out of the box. One thing I want to point out is there is zero lock stick on this at all. Not for 1 second have I experienced any lock stick. The lock face is completely clean. Let me actually wipe that off, and you can see there is no, I don't know if you can actually get in there, but there's a little darkening right there, but that's not any sort of graphite or marker or anything. So I don't know why there's no stick. I don't know if they've carbonized this lock face. I have peeked in there and it didn't look obviously carbonized, but maybe carbonization has gotten a lot cleaner now and it's not as obvious as it used to be. But there is zero stick on this lock, no matter how you open it. Haven't experienced any stick whatsoever on this knife. One thing I like is they kept the raw heat treat finish on the spine here. I assume that's probably just out of laziness, but I think it looks really cool. It's got almost like a acid wash type finish on the top there that contrasts kind of the satin tumbled on the blade there. So what does it feel like? This knife feels like, and I'm going to get some hate for this, if the action feels very Chris Reeve Sebenza-like, just meaning it is ultra smooth, but it has resistance. So it has that quote-unquote hydraulic feel that you talk about when you talk about Hinderer knives. And then I love the way that detent, when it closes, it like reverberates through the titanium and sounds really, really good. Love that sound. I don't know if it's coming across through the video. Here, let me get closer. Just a really nice tink sound when you close this thing up. Like I said, nothing wiggles on this knife. It is superbly manufactured. Lockup is perfect. There is no wiggle in the blade. It is as stout can be, which is why I really, really like this knife. Now, that being said, what are the downsides? It's heavier than it needs to be. It's thicker than it needs to be. It doesn't cut as well as it probably should, you know. So those are the sacrifices. Some of that depends on what you use knives for. If you do a lot of box cutting, paper cutting, probably not the best choice if you're actually slicing through material regularly. If you're just wanting a general cutter, like I would say probably 80% of the people that carry knives just want something where package needs opened, string needs cut, somebody just needs some slicing assistance. This is the perfect knife for the job. And of course, if you are a hardcore operator and need a pry bar slash defensive weapon, which, you know, I'm sure at least 25% of my viewers are, this would fit that bill excellently, excellently. Like I said before, don't really dig the blade finish. I think they could have done a much better job on that. This seems kind of haphazard, so keep that in mind with this latest run. I don't think the earlier runs did that. I think this kind of weird satin tumbled thing is kind of new, but everything else on this is superb. The way it feels in the hand, the manufacturing, just spot on. So if you are in the market for a Strider AR .75, in my opinion, don't hesitate to pick one up as long as you know kind of its pros and cons, what it's geared for, and I think you can't go wrong. It's a beautiful knife, put together really well, super smooth, fun to play with, and it looks wicked cool. That Strider design, I just really like this handle design. Excellent, excellent stuff. So, all right, guys, that's it. That is kind of tabletop on the Strider AR.75. Please leave your comments, likes, blah, blah, blahs down below. Much appreciated. Much love. Catch you guys later.